All right, Tim, another race, our third in a row. Next week is not a race week. It's going to be a little bit weird. But here we go.
Give me a weekend off, Adam. What are you going to do with your time?
You know what? We got on the hockey side, we got so much the way of playoffs going. It's not even going to matter. I'm not even going to notice it. But we are here. We are getting ready for Jeddah. And you know what I love about Jeddah is that as a hockey fan as well, I believe the Leafs are kicking off on Sunday. So I'll be watching the Grand Prix, relaxing, calming my nerves before all hell breaks loose on the Leafs side. Formula One, I find a very calming thing to watch. Hockey, I know it's so funny, right? Because it's like, especially this time of year, right? You get to just enjoy it. Oh, look at the process. The teams are building. Look at this or whatever. Towards the end of the season, I find Formula One extremely stressful. Like when you get into like the races, like I think about where I was at with Max and Lewis in 2020 or 2021, right? I was wound right up. And I think that's the same with hockey too. At the beginning of the season, I feel very relaxed. Oh, it's process and how are they doing this week? And and then you get to the crunch time and it's like I can't enjoy any of this until it's over.
I always feel, Adam, like with the start of the season, like you always get like a lot of attention with the sport, and then it kind of it dies down a little bit. And then you get a lot of attention when it gets to Canada, and then because Canada is like one of those races where it's classic, obviously,
and a benchmark too.
Great, yeah. I was just gonna say a benchmark. So you always get like high viewership for Canada, and you always get obviously high attendance, but more interaction with everything on social media, everything. And then you get a little bit of a tiny bit of a dip, but then once you kind of get close to summer break, it kind of really drops down.
Right.
And then it comes back up once you get to like October.
Yes.
And then if the championship's like kind of close, like last year, I found that the attention F1 got like ramped up from October all the way through to the end.
Will Red Bull blow it? Will McLaren clinch it? Will McLaren blow it? I mean, like,
will Ferrari catch them? Like that kind of stuff. So
yeah, no, 100%. There's that dip in the season. I always find too. It's like They're like in Formula One. Obviously, I like the fact that Canada is one of those benchmark races. Monaco, obviously, is Monaco's everybody watches, and then the other one that really sticks out to me for what people really get involved with, obviously, British Grand Prix and Spa.
Yeah, Spa. Yeah, it's great.
Those are like those July races are like really cool, and then it's break time.
Yeah.
Kind of funny, right? And then like
tumbleweeds.
Yeah, I know it's weird, right? Because like I love Austria. I love that track. I think Hungary's track is cool, but nobody's walking around, at least in North America. I can't speak for the Europeans or anybody else anywhere else in the world, but I don't know if anybody's walking around going, man, Baku. I can't forget. And that's a great track too, right? Like you just, anyway, I love Baku. I think it's awesome. So Tim, listen, this morning we know Max Verstappen is going to speak to reporters. We're recording before, but we're going to see sort of the fallout of this. And the fallout is that Max, his agent, Pierre Wache, Christian Horner, and Helmut Marko had a big chat after the race on Sunday. And what we mean by big chat was it was one-sided and it was Max's side and they were pissed. And Helmut Marko said, it's absolutely a concern that Max could maybe leave. Martin Brundle this week said, listen, if Max goes into the driver pool, he's worried about George Russell. Will Buxton said, listen, if Max becomes available, and remember, he signed for multiple years, he said there's only one team that can give him what he wants, which is a Honda engine. And that would be Aston Martin. I guess he loves Honda engines. That's what Will said. It was in a tweet. So, I just want to say this, Tim. I feel like there's a lot of smoke around Max again. This time last year, it was about the Christian Horner scandal.
Yeah, good point.
Now it's about the car's not that good. And Max was able to pull a sixth out of a hat or a fifth out of the hat or whatever it was. Not great. So when he speaks today, what do you expect his message to be?
I think he's always really good at like keeping things behind closed doors, right? It's like almost everybody else is airing their dirty laundry into the media. And Max is the only one who's
brings
not.
It down, right? He brings the temperature down.
He 100% does. I think, the conversation between Helmut Marko and Max's manager, I think a big part of that has to do with a lot of the operational processes that they were experiencing during the Bahrain Grand Prix. And these are things that we did touch on in the podcast. We did talk about how he's probably upset about the pit stops and how that all kind of went down and the technical processes, because I think for big thing for Max is he's not extremely hard on the team. He just wants everything to be sort of perfect. So if the car's not great, I think he wants the team to be at least perfect on everything else, right? So that they can maximize point scoring position within whichever race they're at. And I don't necessarily think or believe that he goes behind closed doors and absolutely thrashes everybody, right? And just gives them all of his piece of his mind. I think he's actually quite the opposite on that end. He just lets his manager do the heavy lifting on the other end. But and maybe Yas as well. But the threat, I think, of Max leaving. I mean, Adam, this stems all the way back to last year, right? When I was in Bahrain, and Jos Verstappen has a pretty public meeting with Toto Wolff, and then fast forward a few races later, Toto's gushing over Max. I sat down and had a 1-to-1 with Toto, and he told me that Max was one of those drivers who just got away from him. He wanted to sign him back when he was in F3, but Red Bull beat him to it. And then you fast forward to, when was it I talking to him again? It was a few races later, and then again in Mexico, I think it was, where Toto kind of threw cold water on the whole Max coming to Mercedes. That has never really left, right? That's a story that hasn't really gone away, because I think Mercedes is interested in getting Max Verstappen. The issue is that George is driving extremely well right now. Like, this is the best that he's had to an F1 season. And Kimi Antonelli is turning out to look like a real legitimate high caliber prospect for them. And I think for, Mercedes is kind of like, okay, well, we need to re-sign George. Who are we going to get rid of if we ever wanted to go after Max Verstappen? And granted, I don't think that, George wouldn't cost as much. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Max definitely would. He would cost a lot. And do they want to get involved with those types of contract negotiations? So,
I mean, they're not afraid to spend a ton of money, right? I mean, Lewis Hamilton is not cheap.
No,
right?
But that's true. That's a good point. But did Lewis get the same amount that Max was getting?
Well,
at one
point,
yes, who knows?
Yeah, no, not. I mean, I think Lewis is making more than anybody now.
Now, for
but
sure.
At Ferrari. Yeah,
but when Lewis entered negotiations with Mercedes a few years back to extend his deal, I would be curious to know if Lewis was getting as much as Max was in that final go around with Mercedes.
Probably not. Probably not. And I, what, Tim, it's interesting because the other side of that is, okay, so you bring in Max, notoriously guy that eats teammates alive. You've got a young prospect there with Kimi Antonelli. You got a good team culture, right? George and Lewis worked well together. George and Kimi will probably work well together.
Yeah.
Is it not time to focus for Mercedes on the next generation? You've got a younger guy who is probably more adaptable to whatever these technical regulation changes are going to be. Listen, if you're an F1 team and Max Verstappen's available, you would be crazy not to make that phone call.
Yeah.
And consider it. But I think there's maybe one team on the grid that wouldn't make that call, and that's McLaren, because they've already done it. The other thing is that, like, Max and George together is an impossibility. Their relationship broke down last year.
Yeah.
You're not pulling Kimi out of the car anyway, but
No.
Max and George do not like each other.
That's true.
And so that's also impossible. I'm curious about, like, I guess for the Mercedes brand, because you got to think of this, if you're spending that kind of money, you got to think of this in branding terms.
Yeah, that's a good point.
How long? So Max has been at Red Bull a long, long time. And if I'm a marketing person at Mercedes, and let's ask the question, does Max Verstappen help us sell more road cars?
Mm-hmm.
Lewis did.
Yep.
Right? Lewis absolutely did.
Yep.
Does George Russell help us sell more Mercedes road cars? I think maybe in England he does. Maybe in Europe he does.
Yep.
I'm not saying Max doesn't. I'm just asking the question, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then if I am Audi and I'm looking on this, George Russell is exactly the type of guy I would want fronting an Audi brand. So if he does get moved on from because Verstappen goes in, I think like George Russell, the way he dresses, the way he acts, whatever, I think he embodies what Audi is looking for in their potential buyer. Young, smart, rich, good looking, good fashion sense, that sort of thing. Like all that shit matters when you're looking at marketing, right? And I feel like if that moves in, I wonder if Mercedes lives to regret that a little bit, because you got to then do a whole bunch of stuff to protect Kimi Antonelli. You have the headache, and I'm sorry I'm going to say it, the headache of Jos Verstappen, because Jos is going to get in there and he's going to, rightfully so, make sure that his kid, who's a grown man now, but make sure his kid has the best car and the best this and the best that. That's what they do. That's how they operate as a team. I wonder if it causes more headaches than it maybe perhaps is worth for Mercedes at this point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Those are all like great points. I mean, when we look at, the drivers now, they are marketing prospects, right? That's what they are. I mean, and then on top of all that, they have so much talent too. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds, really, when you're an OEM or you're a big time partner of one of the teams. So I think when you take a look at the regulation for next year, I think, Adam, one of the deciding factors is kind of like, okay, so when we get to 2026, who's going to have that advantage? Mm-hmm. Because there is going to be a team, could be two actually, who knows, that could have that, big advantage starting off.
Yep.
And then you're going to have teams starting to catch up. Now, the belief is that since there's a cost cap, since you've got CFD, wind tunnel testing time now that's allocated throughout the top 10, first place being you get the least amount of it, mm-hmm. That's going to allow other teams to catch up. In theory, this season, we saw that. Like, that did play out. The cost cap did help. The wind tunnel CFD design time stuff allowed teams to converge faster, allowed other teams to catch up faster. So when you take a look at like 2027, 2028, when you will have those teams that are starting to catch up, mm-hmm. That's, I think, Adam, when you need like your superstar driver.
Yes. Yeah. Like
you are going to need like a Max Verstappen. You're going to need that athlete that makes the difference. It's like in hockey or football, basketball, you have your one star that does make the difference in those crucial moments within a game. Same thing applies in racing now, where we don't have the paid driver coming in anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's all about who's got the goods.
Who are we spending our marketing budgeting?
Exactly. And who are we spending money on to bring up through the ranks and all that kind of stuff. So when we take a look at George, I mean, Mercedes spent a lot of money on George getting him into Formula One. Yeah,
they did.
Like,
to just let him go like that too.
Yeah, and then just to be like all of a sudden like, we're sort of done with you. Like, move on. Especially now when he's really starting to noticeably come into his own. That's a tough thing to do, man. Like, there's no other team I think that's would be of interest to Max. Only like everybody's like, oh, Aston Martin. I mean, there's nothing going on. Like, I don't see Max going to Aston Martin in the next few years. I just do not see that. Mm-hmm. Max going to Mercedes. I mean, yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. But I don't know who you would drop. And Max going to like Audi. There's no way you're getting, no matter how much you pay Max Verstappen, he's not going there to start.
Right.
Not unless they've really nailed something with their power unit. But then you've got two contrasting things happen, right, Adam? You've got maybe a team that's got a great power unit, but a really not so good car.
Yep.
And that's also going to be a storyline when we get to 2026. You're going to have a team that's got a rocket ship of an engine, but a crap car because of the way the regulation is designed. So you need to kind of be with that team that's going to have both of those things come together at the same time. Is Red Bull going to be one of those teams? That will be one of the questions. At the moment, I don't believe they will, but I mean, who knows? I think things could change, right? I mean, I don't know how competitive Red Bull is going to be in 2026 to start things off. I have my reservations about that. I don't think they're going to be fantastic to start things off. So how do you keep Max happy at that point? He's your number one driver. He's your star driver. Like, how do you it's like in the NBA, like, how do you keep your stars happy on the team? Like, how do you, in any sport,
got to keep
not
winning.
Just the NBA.
Got to keep winning. So, okay. Now we've got something about Red Bull and McLaren and Lando talking about how McLaren needs to stop complaining. Let's do a little Tim Sim. Let's drop into Jeddah for our little preview, our Timho Racing, our Timulator. We are going to have Tim take you through the Jeddah Corniche circuit for the next 10 minutes and have a look at, first off, A, how Tim does, because that's the key here. How does Tim do? B, also what it's like from the driver's perspective at this circuit. It's a tough one. Have a look. Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Jeddah. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix takes place at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. Tim is going to take you through a time trial. Tim's
going to try and take you through a time trial.
Yeah, this is one of the hardest tracks out there. This is what last year made Ollie Bierman's career.
Oh, yeah, he was awesome. Remember that?
Amazing. Carlos Sainz was being rushed. It's interesting that you're driving Carlos Sainz's car right now.
That's right.
He was being rushed to hospital with appendicitis, and it was Oliver Behrman who was able to jump in, and I think he finished 7th or 8th, which was pretty incredible. He scored some points,
right?
Yeah, a lot better than anybody could have expected. And this circuit is known, even in video game land, as one of the toughest circuits out there because of how tight it is. It is tough to pass. It is really fast, and you got to be very careful on the brakes, right, Tim?
Yes.
I got you at the wrong time.
This is a really tough track. I can only imagine what it's like driving it in like the real world. Like, these guys are nuts for doing this track. It's insane. If you make a mistake, you're just gonna nail the wall. It's such a high rate of speed. It's ridiculous.
So for a race like this, is it all quali? Like, are you're looking not quite on the Monaco level, but you really, really, really want to get a good time in qualification.
I think they have good racing here. Like, I think this track for a street circuit provides some really good racing.
Has 3 DRS zones, 50 laps, 6.1 kilometers. Very new track. Obviously, it only first race took place here in 2021. Despite containing 27 corners, which is the most on the F1 calendar, it's also one of the among the fastest tracks. The average speed here is 250 kilometers an hour, Tim.
It's awesome. I would love to do this in real life.
Okay, so this wouldn't freak you out, because I know you're a race car driver. For me as a human being, I'm like, I'm going to sim this one in my career mode.
I'd crap my pants.
There's
no question about it. But like, it's a good challenge. Okay, a 135.8, Adam.
Hey, that's a good start. So,
oh, no!
Oh, a little off on that one. Now, last year at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Max Verstappen claimed victory. Not really surprising. Red Bull were so dominant to start the year, and we kind of forget that because of what happened last summer with McLaren and even Ferrari and Mercedes making some gains and winning some races. Max, as we said, Ollie Behrman replaced Carlos Sainz following the appendicitis surgery. What was crazy about that, Tim, was Carlos Sainz limping to the track too the next race.
I think he didn't he? I can't remember. Yeah, he
showed up, and it was like, dude, what are you doing, man?
Wanted his seat. He's willing to do whatever he had to do, Adam.
Yeah, gritty.
Respect.
He's a hard-working guy. He's a hard-working guy. Now, at a track like this, there's going to be some similarities to Bahrain, and there's going to be some major differences. Obviously, this is a high-paced track. This is a city circuit. The corners are tight, and there are a lot of them. What do you think about who would do well at this race based on what we've seen so far?
I still think McLaren's going to go well here. I think this is going to be like, I think if you take a look at the first 3 races of the season, a couple outliers in terms of the tracks and what they all have to do and all that kind of stuff. I think for this race, we're going to see who's good at these city street circuit type events. I still think McLaren's going to be quickest. Actually, I think Red Bull might be in the mix.
Okay.
Oh.
Whoa. Yeah.
I think I just got another personal best time.
See, look at you.
All right, we're doing all right here. Ooh.
This is a lot better than last week's Bahrain. Oh, you collided with the wall.
Week was
Invalidated lap time because you collided with a wall?
Such.
You know what we need to do is just throw you in a race.
If I collided with the wall, it would be like game over.
Right.
Oh, no.
Maybe that's why, because they're like, you would have damaged the car.
This complex here, this section, like, I don't know what that would feel like in a real Formula 1 car in real life.
As in, like, the G-forces?
The whole thing, like, trying to stitch it together while being quick. It's like threading a needle. The tiniest of mistake, and it's like, forget it, you're gone. Like, I think, I'm trying to remember who's had some. I mean, I remember Alonso had a huge save there one year. I think Kevin Magnussen, I can't remember if he had a big crash there. He might have.
Or did you just take a bunch of darts there?
This is where Mick Schumacher had his crash.
Yes, I remember that.
That's a tough complex too, man. Like, you're literally flying through there. It's like threading the needle at 300 kilometers an hour. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? It really does separate. I think experience matters on a track like this.
I think so too.
And they don't get a lot of training on this. Like, this is not, through the junior drives, this is not a track that people see a lot, is it? Yeah. This is the key, right? So you got to think if you're
it's a big confidence track too, Adam. Like you really do need to be confident in what you're doing.
And we talk about confidence from a driver's perspective. You can have a veteran driver lose confidence because the brakes aren't working properly or to their spec. We saw through the first few races, Carlos Sainz specifically still acclimatizing a little bit to the Williams braking system versus Ferrari.
Yep.
It takes time.
Come on. Yeah, especially for Sainz. I mean, that's just going to take a lot of races. I mean, I remember him saying before Bahrain, like, he's like, look, if you thought I was going to get in this thing and be fast right away, I mean, you don't know Formula 1.
Right. Right.
Basically what he said. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he's right. I mean, and you have to know the equipment to be quick at a track like this because you're See, that would have been it. It would have been
bang bang.
Yeah,
it's over.
I'm glad we don't have the damage.
No, damage is off because why waste our time?
We'd be resetting this thing quite often. Oh, and then the steering wheel is just so heavy. Too.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Is it? Do you think it's the car or is it the steering wheel? How we got it set up?
Probably the car.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. Because they do, changes this to the specs of the car from 2024.
Still trying to work out the steering wheel a bit, though. Adam, you've seen me in here a couple times working away.
Yeah, Tim actually does train for these, right? He's like,
hold on a second here. This is the first time on this track.
Not this one, but he comes in and he's like working with the steering, wants to get it right. I was saying it as a sign of respect. I respect it. You're like, that's how competitive Tim is. That's the thing.
It's not like I'm in here logging hours every day.
Well, it would be cool if you were.
Maybe once a week I get in here.
Yeah, but and it's also
come in and see you guys, right?
Well, we like that too, and also it's also kind of hilarious because the more I talk, especially when Tim's on quarters, the more he wants to friggin' kill me. Yeah. The more he turns into Kimi Räikkönen. Like, shut up, I got it.
Leave me alone. I know what I'm doing.
Exactly. Now, Tim. I am wondering, with all the rookies going in a track like this, and we kind of mentioned it earlier.
It's going to be like Suzuka, man.
Do we expect carnage? Or do we expect slower times? Just finish the race?
Potential carnage, but
like if you're Io Komatsu, if you're Flavio, if you're those, what are you telling these guys?
Nothing.
Oh,
just leave them alone. I think if I'll give you an example because I think Mercedes did it right with Antonelli in Suzuka, where they were literally kind of like built him up and started stripping the downforce off the car as each session rolled along. simply because they needed to build his confidence up, right?
Right.
And once they got into the race, he nailed it.
Yeah.
Like, he was great. So that's the sort of approach I would take with a rookie at this track in an F1 car. Look at that.
Look at that.
Look at
You've
that.
beaten your rival.
Well, like,
Tim Hauraney. Look at this. Who cares what the next lap looks like? Big win. Big win there.
that was all right.
That's great, man.
While I'm like having a conversation. So
Yeah.
there's probably 2 seconds on the board out there somewhere.
So is that what you do? You set the downforce heavy to kind of start and then just slowly inch your way into it?
I'm just going to cruise around here.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
so when I was racing in Formula cars, obviously that's where big part of my career was in Formula cars. As a rookie, going to like a city street circuit or to a big commitment racetrack, always had lots of downforce on the car to start the sessions off, so I could so the team would allow me to build my confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go out and if you're a rookie and you just go 10/10ths immediately and you have a mistake or you have an incident at a track like this, you pay the price, and with that is a knock on your confidence. And so the goal is to just build the confidence as you go throughout the weekend, stripping downforce off the car as you kind of go through the sessions. That's what they used to do with me, where you go to the second practice session, you probably have the car with a little less downforce, it's a little lighter, but you have to be on top of that, right? And then as you kind of build through the weekend, you want to try and arrive where, if you have a more experienced teammate, you kind of want to arrive where they are at in terms of the downforce setting.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes a ton of sense.
So you can.
That's really great insight.
So when you arrive at that level of downforce, your confidence is relatively there to allow you to go and take the risks, push, all that kind of stuff, right? So.
Okay. So we'll be looking in free practice 1, 2, and 3, as well as qualifying for the rookie drivers to do that. Tim Hauraney, congratulations on setting a personal best. We're going to wrap it up, my friend.
All right. Sounds good.
So one of the things, Tim, that Lando said before the race that kind of got lost last weekend with all the drama was that Red Bull needed to stop complaining. And then just, not to quote Christian Horner, but fix the effing car. So let's talk about what Red Bull is so after McLaren about. They're having them investigated constantly.
Oh, yeah.
The scrutineers are there all the time. What's going on?
A big part of it's to do with the Flexi-wing debate. And I think Red Bull's been playing really close attention to McLaren's rear wing. I mean, I think they were suspicious of it back in Bahrain testing, and that they put so much pressure on the FIA that they came up with stricter measuring rules or tools, sure, I should say. Like when we got to Japan and in China as well, because Japan came the full regulation and then a rule, and then Japan there was only China there was only like a quarter of the rule.
Yep.
And then you've got to look at Red Bull. Is their stuff flexing as well? And not really when we look at videos and all that kind of stuff. And then you had Max Verstappen. I think he liked a social media post that was showing the flexing of the McLaren compared to what the Red Bull was doing. And I believe that video was from Japan, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And then you've got this big old rule coming in for Spain, and that's a major clampdown on how much body work can flex on these cars. So I think things, Adam, they could change when we get to Spain. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of rumors in the paddock that could be a point where McLaren, their advantage drops off. That's not to say that McLaren's not going to be fast. I mean, they will be fast, but maybe their race pace advantage is not going to be as high as it is now.
Right.
And I think a lot of that has to do with stiffer wings and a stricter rule set that will be coming in for the Spanish Grand Prix and for the rest of the season. And that's going to apply to all the teams. And so the question is that like at this point, like is Red Bull already in that window, right? Are they already there when it comes to having the stiffness of their body work? And when they get to Spain, is that car going to be a little bit better? Like, are they able to do some different things with it? And then for McLaren, it's the reverse, right? It's like, okay, what do they got to do to either stop some flexing? Are they prepared for that? Is this going to affect them? Right? These are all those questions. A lot of teams seem to feel that by the time we get to Spain, though, McLaren may be sort of brought back a bit because of it. And I think that's going to be a huge that could be like a huge turning point within the season, and it's not that far off either.
No, it isn't.
We're not even that far away from the Spanish Grand Prix, like another month and change. So that will be a good little storyline that's coming in, and we'll see how that affects the teams that are out front, and we'll see who's able to kind of catch up. But I think that's going to be a storyline to look out for when we get to that point. But again, I mean, I think all this stuff always happens when we get close racing.
Yeah, of course it does.
Like if we're talking about like whatever 2020 Mercedes is just running away with it, you don't get those stories. But then when you get to like 2021, remember, like there's so much stuff that was going on between Mercedes and Red Bull, and then I'm trying to think about last year, like Red Bull and was it 2023? They had like the
Red Bull and Ferrari.
Yeah, but 2023, like Red Bull had this trick with the car that would drop the front nose a bit.
Oh,
and they got,
yes, I forgot about that.
They got like busted for that.
Yeah.
And then you had, I think Red Bull accusing McLaren of putting water in the tires last year to try and keep them cool at some points. Yes. So there's always going to be that, I guess, paranoia when it comes to the rules, the regulations, and the teams.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think it's, I just think that the Flexi-wing debate has been interesting because of what happened in Baku last year when we saw when we really saw that the mini DRS, McLaren exploited something within the rules, which, hey, fair game.
Yep.
And then the story started to gain more traction, a bit more Flexi-wings, and I think a lot of stuff behind the scenes of teams, or Red Bull in particular, putting pressure on the FIA to like, hey, you got to do more. This isn't enough. This is breaking the rules. This is that. So I'll be fascinated to see if this does anything when we get to Spain, because I don't know, Adam, it may not bear any fruit whatsoever.
Well,
right?
McLaren's had a lot of time to prepare for this too, and I think
100%.
They've very clearly got a well-oiled machine in their engineering department. So I feel like they've probably prepared for this, but we'll see. We'll see how lots of teams prepare for lots of things, and it doesn't work out.
Yeah, for sure.
So you never know. You really don't know. So I love. Obviously, I'm somebody that loves a good sports storyline. I love Formula One for the barbs they throw back and forth, and I loved Lando's quote for that, because it's the same when Christian and Toto get into it, when Zach and Christian get into it. Christian's probably always involved. That's just the way it is.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's exciting. Now, I want to ask you this, Tim. This circuit, as we saw on the sim, not an easy one. Oliver Behrman. I mean, it made his career to race there last year for Ferrari and score points because it's such a hard, tight, narrow, fast circuit. Who do you think car-wise does well? I'm going to assume you say McLaren.
Yeah, I would say McLaren, but I think like the bigger storyline there, Adam, is like what happens with Lando in this race. This is going to be, I think, important for him to reestablish his confidence within their car. Mm-hmm. At the moment, I mean, Oscar has been incredible. He's on another level in terms of driving and confidence. And I think also what's interesting about Oscar is that when you take a look at China last year, Shanghai, I think that was a struggle for him. That was a difficult track. Mm-hmm. And then again, you take a look at Bahrain last year, not particularly one of his better races, mm-hmm. if I remember correctly. And then you kind of take a look at, okay, where was he strong this year so far? He's been strong in the races that were a challenge for him. So, you can see that he is in the off season spent a lot of time working with his engineers, working with the simulator, and trying to understand and figure out how can he make these tracks that were difficult for him his strengths. Mm-hmm. So you can see that he's put a ton of work in, man. Like mm-hmm. he really has. And he's put a ton of work into that tire management skill.
Yes. Which that's a learned skill, right? Like that's just grit. That's determination learning that.
Yeah, you just got to put the time in.
And it's boring. Right? Let's be honest, it's boring.
For sure. And it's also a different type of way of driving at some points as well to get that tire management under control. I think for Lando, I'm not saying that he wasn't working hard in the off season. That's not what I'm driving towards. What I'm getting at is that Lando now has a teammate has caught up, right? Who at this moment is kind of on par.
Yeah.
Where last year you always knew that Lando was going to be there, but you weren't too sure about which races Oscar was going to have trouble with. Was he going to have trouble with qualifying? Did he have trouble with the tire in qualifying? Is that something he needs to learn from? You could see that learning process starting to take effect. And he kind of threw it into fast forward mode throughout the off season and put the work in and has caught up with Lando on that level. So now you have two drivers who could win this driver's title. Obviously, only one of them is going to win it, but you have two drivers in contention. And
and if Oscar doesn't spin out in Australia, he's the leader right now.
100%.
I mean, the Lando hate online is unbelievable. I don't know why there is so much. I don't know. To me, he's always seemed like a really likable guy. People are weird, but there is, there's a lot of evidence, Tim, and I say this as a fan of both drivers in McLaren, that Oscar is driving at a level and probably has the potential to drive at the level in his career that maybe a guy like Lando might not be able to match. And I think maybe Lando knows that. And I think the great thing about Lando is his point of view is not, I need to be better than Max. He thinks that there's other ways to win. And there are. I mean, you see sometimes like full-blown, unbelievably skilled drivers like a Michael Schumacher or a Lewis Hamilton. But then you see guys like, Alain Prost or Nigel Mansell who were like tougher drivers, mm-hmm. right? And they win too. And I wonder for Lando, I wondered last year if last year wasn't the time, right? If you're going to win, it's got to be now because. And I wonder if this year Oscar's going, I don't know what the regulations are going to be next year. I better win this now.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
That makes 100% sense because that's the way I would approach it too if I was one of those guys. Because it's kind of like, okay, you're going to have a strong car for this season. So you've got to put so much work into the off season and into yourself to show what you can do, but to capitalize on what your advantage is at the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. To make sure you sort of make hay while the sun shines, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Because it's like you said,
Formula One's opportunity, isn't it? It's all opportunity.
For sure it is. Now we're seeing a regulation where, in qualifying in particular, like skill is skill's always been a huge, huge factor. But now it's like, it is so, so crucial. You cannot make a single mistake like in qualifying. You cannot make one. The level of driving now compared to years past is through the roof. These are all incredible athletes that we're seeing here. And literally now we're having to take a deep dive into a driver being like, is he mentally tough enough?
Right.
Like to go and win a championship. This weekend for me, I'm really going to pay close attention to what Lando's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he is confident in the car, I think he's pretty unbeatable. Like
he's very rock solid.
yeah.
Yeah.
But when he has that like fleeting moment of a loss of confidence here, kind of he sometimes can let those things spiral out of control,
Sure.
and it's just a big snowball that catches steam going down the hill.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
for when we look at Oscar, is a different type of driver
Mm-hmm.
than Lando. All these drivers are all different from each other, and it's like you said, there's no one way to win a championship.
No, I
And
mean, it's just
every driver has their own way of doing it.
yep.
Right.
Yeah. And
And
I think
that's
we've
just
gotten
the
so
way it
used to
is.
Max and Lewis. We've had so many multi-time champions over the last 15 years, going back to
Yeah.
like Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah.
I mean, was Kimi Räikkönen the most talented driver on the grid when he won?
He was
I would
great,
argue
but
Fernando and Lewis were way more talented.
I was just gonna say, like, that was those two guys could have been there for the championship as well.
100%. They were right there. They were right there.
Yeah, they were right there. That's right.
So I don't know. That's just my opinion. I now Tim, the other team I'm paying close attention to, and I'm not trying to be a hipster by saying this. I really mean it. I'm interested in Haas in the midfield. I'm interested in, first off, Oliver Behrman had a great race there last year. But Esteban's a fast driver. They had a double points finish last week. The car looks really, really quick. And I'm curious because obviously they're going to be racing. It looks like Alpine's got a car again. I'm curious to see, what the fifth place team, excuse me, is able to do this weekend. I think that this weekend could benefit that car because it is fast. But I don't know what it's going to be like on those corners.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think for Haas, like starting there, like they've they fast tracked that new floor to the car for Japan. Things look like it kind of worked out for them in Bahrain, but mix that with two really remarkable drives from Ocon and Behrman. When you look at Saudi Arabia, is that a track that's going to suit the Haas in this current state because of the high-speed nature of it? I think it could be a challenge for them, Adam, if they're not able to sort of sort out the floor with the high-speed content that's in Saudi Arabia, because this is one of the faster tracks they've been to in a bit. Suzuka was fast, and so is this track in Saudi Arabia. It's fast. So that's going to be something to watch out for. But for Alpine, could be another track, Adam, where they can capitalize on capturing some points. This is a track also that Jack Doohan, he will know. So I'll be interested to see how he does. Can he keep up with Pierre? I mean, they've made subtle changes to Jack's car that's kind of allowed him to do what he needs to do with it, to trying to extract some more lap time out of it, and that's pulled him closer to Pierre. But at the same time, can he keep it consistently going? Can he eat into the gap that Pierre has on him? That'll be something I'll be watching as well. But
I guess the question, Tim, is: do you think Alpine are for real?
I was just going to say that. Yeah, I think like this will be a track that's going to tell us whether or not like Alpine is going to be one of those teams that can fight into that fifth spot.
If they can,
or fourth even.
The hiring of Flavio Briatore will be seen as an absolute stroke of genius.
And Oliver Oaks.
Oliver Oaks.
I give Oliver Oaks some credit too. I mean, he's the one that's...
No, it's all about Flavio. No, I'm cool. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, but you know what I mean? Like it was sort of like when Flavio was hired, like Oliver Oaks being hired was not controversial. Flavio was. So that's where, you kind of look at it and go, damn, like that's what's going to take up all the oxygen is Flavio. Always does, right? And that's what makes Flavio so fun as a guy who's associated with the team. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit is Ferrari around this track.
Yeah.
When we see their pace, and I'm not looking about, free practice is weird because you're going to get different fuel and different tires and teams are testing things out. When it comes to qualifying, I read an article this week in Planet F1 about Lewis Hamilton and about the fact that his race pace is still absolutely there. But as drivers age, their one lap becomes harder and harder to peak at the top. Okay. We know that Lewis didn't do a great job qualifying, especially last year in comparison to George Russell. Was still able to win. What will we know about Ferrari after this race weekend?
So the new floor that they brought for last weekend, I think Charles believes it's going to pay big dividends for them here at this track because of the high-speed nature of it, and that's sort of why that floor has been fast-tracked. So that's something to watch out for. We'll see if this floor helps kind of bring the car a little bit more performance, because Leclerc felt that he had squeezed all the performance out of the car following Bahrain. I would also go back and argue, like, was it the right choice to throw him on mediums? Is there another strategy they maybe could have done? Because putting him on the hard tire obviously exposed himself to Lando, who was on the better compound at that time. Could Charles have held Lando off for a little bit longer if he had been on a different tire compound? That's a question that I would have for the team. But outside of that, this could be a track that really suits them. Ferrari could be really strong here if this floor plays out to be what they want it to be. Could see another step in performance for Ferrari. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go out at them and win races here. Okay, but I'm saying is a third place capable?
Doable.
Like, is it there? Like, is it in the window? Are they able to keep better pace with Mercedes?
Yeah, I mean, because Mercedes has emerged as probably the second fastest team.
Yeah, they've been really good. Like, we had talked about during preseason. So for Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton in qualifying, I don't believe that. I don't know what the article was that you read, Adam, but if you take a look at what Fernando Alonso is doing, what he did last year, some of the laps that guy put together, I mean, have been incredible. I don't think Lewis has lost any of his speed whatsoever. I think this is more of a car setup.
Yeah, setup. Oh, okay.
This is more of a, how do I get the car set in a window where I can extract its performance from? And it's all about searching for that, right? And I think if he's able to do a little bit more of maybe what Leclerc is doing, that may help. That may help things.
Okay.
So because he kind of mentioned it in the post-race press conferences last weekend, and so we have been talking about it on the show as well. So I think, I don't think Lewis has lost anything. I still think he's blindingly fast.
That makes me happy, because I don't want a world where Lewis Hamilton isn't in the sport. I just think it's better with him in it. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, 100%. And when he does well, it's great for everybody, really.
Yeah.
People
Absolutely.
love Lewis, so it's great when he does well. That's for sure. But I honestly don't think he's lost anything. It doesn't look like it either. He still looks fast, and
okay.
I don't believe those things, Adam. You know what I mean? Pundits are like, oh, the older he gets, the slower he gets.
Eventually they'll be right, but
eventually, not yet. But look at what they used to say about Tom Brady. Give me a break. Come on.
My favorite thing about Tom Brady's career is the first half of his career and the second half of his career separately could be Hall of Fame careers.
100%.
And I would say the same with Lewis, right?
Yeah, 100%, man.
Anyway, so Tim, we'll wrap it up there. But I'm really excited for this weekend. I think this is going to be one of the more exciting Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in a while. I think we need to remind everyone.
It's going to be incredible.
Where the driver standings are at. There could be a ton of shifts here. Russell, Verstappen, Piastri, and Norris are within 15 points of each other right now. That's very exciting. And obviously, with Antonelli splitting Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, that's exciting. We got a Williams in the top 10 in points. Are you kidding me? Albon, Esteban, and Lance are the 8, 9, and 10 in the point scoring drivers. This is a season again where there's some crazy competitiveness. So I'm excited. And obviously, I'm not expecting huge things from Aston Martin, But Lance found a way to find those points in those first couple races.
He did, definitely.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Adam, just a top 6 in just the constructor standings. Like, I can't believe Williams is 6th and Haas
well, they're 8th. Oh, well, in constructors, yeah. Oh no, in constructors is crazy.
I mean,
McLaren
man.
McLaren's quite far ahead, but you've got Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari within 30 or 40 points of each other. And as much as that sounds like a big gap, remember that can change in a weekend. That can change very quickly. So
if you go back to 2023, Adam, and you're taking a look at the constructor standings then, and you were to tell me that this is what it was going to be 2 years later, I wouldn't believe you.
No. Yeah, it's going to be Haas and Williams at 5 and 6.
Yeah, I would have been like, you're funny. Like,
yeah. That's a great joke, man. Tell more jokes.
Yeah, it's a solid joke, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, keep walking.
Yeah, so this will be great. So Tim, looking forward to your Saturday show. So Tim always does a post-qualifying quick little hit for nailing the apex. And then, of course, we'll watch the race Sunday, and we will be back Monday with another nailing the apex to kind of break it all down from this weekend after the dust settles. Tim, enjoy the racing this weekend.
All right, thanks, buddy. Have a good weekend.